I tried to hurry to the hospital where he was being transported, but the police officer stared at me with a suspicious expression and stopped me. "What's going on? Please let me go to the hospital, quickly."
Ma'am, what were you doing before you got here?
Huh?
It's a formal question.
Isn't it an accident? Is it?
Why do you think that?
Why am I being suspected? It's frustrating at a time like this. Formal questions are the one you ask during an investigation, right? You're asking for an alibi, aren't you? It's obvious. My father was a police officer, you know. Anyway, please let me go to the hospital. Quickly. Please. I am Sandra. I met my husband Kelvin through mutual friends. We've been married for 3 years now and have been blessed with a child, living happy days. We both work and we leave our son at a daycare, raising him together. I am very grateful to my husband. I believed that we would continue to live happily like this. But a year ago, while we built a new house, an unexpected trouble arose. The troublemaker was my mother-in-law. Our relationship had been such that we only met once every few months. To be honest, I thought we could visit her more often, but my husband didn't like that. He didn't explain, and I didn't pursue it. We built a house about a 30-minute drive from each of our parents' homes. Since then, my mother-in-law has been visiting our home about 2 to 3 times a week, and she comes unannounced, so we're often not home. She should know that, but she still complains over the phone.
Hey, I went to your home today,
But no one was there.
you should be home when I come over.
I can't take off whenever I want.
You are a daughter-in-law. You should adjust to my schedule. And about my grandson, why does he have to go to daycare from such a young age?
Our family has both parents working, so we've been relying on daycare since our child Kobe was 1 year old. My mother-in-law doesn't like that.
If you quit your job, there won't be any problems. It's negligent parenting to send such a young child to daycare like that.
Here she goes again. I really wish she would just leave us alone. I had no idea she would be so meddlesome in our family's affairs. We only met twice before, for the pre-wedding greetings and the wedding ceremony. At the time, my mother-in-law seemed to be wearing a mask. Now she is transformed into nothing but a nuisance.
And this house?
I don't know about it.
There were better lots of land available if you were going to build a new house. Why didn't you consult with me at all?
Huh? But Kelvin and I made the decision together.
I'm Kelvin's mother. It's only natural for you to run things by me, right?
Huh? I think it's normal to watch over, but controlling their children is wrong. But saying something like that only adds fuel to the fire. I just let my unknowing mother-in-law's words go in one ear and out the other.
Sandra, are you listening to me?
Her stories go on, so I occasionally put my smartphone on the desk and start preparing dinner or something. Once she's finished venting, she hangs up, so I just wait for that. The phone calls are really annoying, but I can just pretend to listen, so it's not that big of a deal. The biggest problem is that she comes over to our house when my husband isn't here. He has weekdays off and works on weekends. Knowing this, she still shows up to our house on Saturday mornings. Of course, if I were alone, I would definitely pretend not to be home. But my little son reacts whenever the intercom rings.
Oh, Kobe, you're so cute like your daddy. As soon as she opens the door, my mother-in-law clung to her grandson.
I'm told that I look like mommy.
That's not true. Kobe, you have distinct features. This face belongs to your daddy. As my son says, people other than my mother-in-law say we are spitting images of each other. However, my mother-in-law doesn't want to admit it and denies it with all her might. Kobe, I have a souvenir for you today.
I don't want it.
Why not? Grandma chose it carefully, thinking that Kobe would be happy with it. Now, which one should we play with today? I don't think that souvenir being something a 3-year-old would enjoy. Thank you. I appreciate it. However, but I think it's a bit too early for this, so I'll wait until he's a bit older to use it. The thing that my mother-in-law lined up on the table were workbook sets for math and foreign languages. They were too difficult for toddlers and were at the level of elementary school students.
Mom, can I play with Lego?
Of course you can, honey. My son began to play with the toys in the room next to the living room. My mother-in-law didn't like it. Or rather, it was always like this, so I wanted her to learn something. I wonder who he takes after. My mother-in-law came to the kitchen and whispered complaints to my son. He's only 3 years old, you know? So it's too much for him to do elementary school stuff. So I'll let him use them when he's old enough to be that target age. You know, when Kelvin was about the same age, he was working on workbooks like that. Is that what he wanted? You know, it's a parent's duty to guide them. Well, there's some truth to that. Did your husband agree with that too? Her husband passed away when my husband was a teenager, so I had never met him. My husband often told me stories about his memories with his father, but he rarely spoke about his mother. Oh, he used to say that when children are young, it's best for them to do what they like. Oh, if you were still alive, you would have surely stopped this mother-in-law's rampage. I thought about my late father-in-law. But whether you become an excellent person or not is up to the parents. I think my husband is normal in a good way. He didn't graduate from any outstanding university, and he is just an ordinary person. If my mother-in-law's philosophy holds true, that my husband became an ordinary person as a result of her gifted education. By the way, I haven't received any gifted education from my parents. However, my high school was a local prestigious school, and my university was also considered to be in the top tier. My mother-in-law's theory has some truth to it, but I wonder if she was able to provide a stress-free study environment for her children. Thank you for the various helpful teachings. I'll think about the education while consulting with Kelvin. No, there's no need to consult Kelvin. I am his mother, and I'm giving you advice. Just listen to me quietly. She is just imposing advice, I thought to myself. Of course, I have already reported this to my husband. Every time, my husband stresses that his mother shouldn't come without an appointment and shouldn't come while he is not there. But she has no intention of listening to him. I had no way to avoid my mother-in-law, and I was starting to accumulate stress. Then, on one Friday, an astonishing fact was revealed. My son was not at home because he had a sleepover at a friend's house. When I returned home alone, I heard the sound of a TV from the living room. I cautiously opened the door to the living room
and found someone lying on the sofa.
What are you doing? Oh, you're back. You're late. Oh, where's Kobe? How did you get into the house? How? Sandra, please don't shout like that. Here, look at this. My mother-in-law showed the key in her hand. That's the key that Calvin lost, right? No, it's not. That child is always careless with his belongings. So I took it to prevent him from losing it when he comes to the house. That's called theft. What are you talking about? I only took care of it. You really don't know how to speak properly. I wonder what Calvin liked about this woman. He must have been brainwashed. I have to wake him up. Anyway, where's Kobe? Huh? He's staying over at his friend's house today. Oh, I see. Are you picking him up tomorrow? Yeah, but you're the one picking him up, right? Calvin works on weekends, right? Can you please return the key now? Don't you notice anything when you look around the house? I even cleaned the house while you were away. That's not all. Your car was dirty, so I washed it for you. And you didn't even say thank you. I'm sorry, but it's bad manners to enter someone's house without permission while they're away. I will report this to Calvin. You always tell Calvin everything, don't you? Because of that, he's always mad at me. You're such a useless wife who only causes trouble. Please return the key, quickly. I will return it without you telling me. You're such an annoying daughter-in-law. Goodbye. For my mother-in-law, she was surprisingly quiet and left easily today. I'm sure she did something wrong. I searched every corner of the house. Embarrassingly, I only clean with a vacuum cleaner once a day, so there was a slight buildup of dust in the corners. It seems like my mother-in-law hasn't cleaned. I wonder why. If nothing happened in the house, then what about the car? I checked every nook and cranny of the car, but there was no sign of anything having been done. What was she trying to do? At the time, I couldn't understand what her twisted ideology. And the next day, the incident occurred. That day, my husband took a half day off to pick up our son from a sleepover and got into the car. Our friend's house was only 5-minute drive away, but after 40 minutes, they hadn't returned. Did my son ask to go to the supermarket to buy snacks? But my husband is the type to keep in touch frequently if plans change. Did something happen? When I picked up my phone, I received a message from a mom friend saying that my husband still hadn't come to pick up our son. My heart was beating faster and faster. I asked her to take care of my son for a while, and I rode my bike to our friend's house. When I turned the corner, I saw a police car. The light on the wagon car's display board said accident. And my car, with the crashed front, was surrounded by police vehicles. I spoke to the police officer in a daze. When they realized that I was my husband's spouse, they told me his condition. He was not in critical condition, but he couldn't apply the brakes and crashed into a pile of reinforced steel, probably breaking his arms, legs, and face. I tried to hurry to the hospital where he was taken, but the police officer looked at me suspiciously and detained me. What's going on? Please let me go to the hospital, quickly. Ma'am, what were you doing before you got here? Huh? It's a formal question. Isn't it an accident, is it? Why do you think that? Why am I being suspected?
It's frustrating at a time like this. Formal questions are the ones you ask during an investigation, right? You're asking for an alibi, aren't you? It's obvious. My father was a police officer, you know. Anyway, please let me go to the hospital quickly. Please.
I couldn't hold back my tears.
Why am I treating like this?
Ma'am, we were certain that this is an incident.
The police officers around were unsettled by the statement of the one officer, because one shouldn't say such things to a civilian, let alone someone who could potentially be a suspect.
I understand how you feel, ma'am. Your husband is safe. I guarantee it. Ma'am, your husband was caught up in an incident. Do you have any idea who might have caused serious harm to your husband?
The police officer led me into the crumpled car and shone a light on the back of the brake pedal. This...
That's right. It's a plastic bottle. It is jammed in here. See? It is designed so that you can't see it unless you look closely. Not only that, but it's attached in a way that you won't notice it if you just press down on the pedal when starting the engine. It is clearly a malicious act.
I trembled as I recalled yesterday's event.
Ma'am?
It's me.
Huh?
I was the one who was targeted. It's because I was supposed to pick up my son that my husband got caught up in the accident because of me. I can't believe it. How dare you? I won't.
Ma'am, calm down. Take your time, okay? Could you tell me what you know?
Still in shock, but I managed to tell the police about the conversation with my mother-in-law yesterday.
I see. Leave it to us from here. Let's hurry to the hospital.
The police officer instructed another officer to take my bicycle to my house and sent me to the hospital in a patrol car. My husband, who was transported, had a broken left arm and both legs, and his face was severely bruised with significant internal bleeding.
I'm sorry for worrying you.
I'm glad that you and Kobe weren't in the car. Tears welled up in my eyes for my loving husband, who was kind beyond measure. I couldn't tell him the truth while he was in front of me. And 5 days after the accident, when my husband was transformed to a general ward, the police officer told him the truth. My husband was speechless at the fact, but immediately showed his anger and filed a complaint. After a while, when the evidence was appraised by the forensics, my mother-in-law was arrested for attempted murder. The decisive evidence was her fingerprint, which was found on the processed plastic bottle. We waited for my husband's recovery before the trial began, but my mother-in-law showed no sign of remorse. She desperately pleaded that she was only trying to save her brainwashed son from his wife. When asked by the judge how she felt about her son being seriously injured, she claimed, "He was unharmed, so I am innocent." My husband and I also appeared in the court as witnesses for the police, but my mother-in-law showed her anger when I stood up. "Why are you unharmed? You piece of jerk!" The judge repeatedly requested her to remain quiet, but she ignored it. As a result, she was sentenced to imprisonment. We sold our newly built house to cut ties with my mother-in-law. I accepted an overseas transfer that has been proposed to me before. As a result, my husband decided to quit his job, and now he supports me and our son as a house husband. Although he has discharged from the hospital without any after effects, he was depressed for the first 6 months or so. The reason why my husband didn't want to see his mother much was that with her excessive interference since childhood. Despite being oppressed by his mother, he wished to carve out his own life with his own will. Thanks to this, my husband grew up to be a true gentleman and we found each other. I was lucky to meet such a wonderful husband. Now my husband shows us a smile, but he is still hurt by the event caused by his own mother. I will never forget that he first wished for the safety of me and our son in the hospital room. I vow to protect him no matter what future holds.